guys, how are you? Welcome back to Plastic Pellies Podcast, episode number 8. I can't believe we're at 8 episodes already. This is crazy, guys. 8 weeks we've been doing this. It's flown by, it's gone so fast. Cade Mila Fulcher to you all before I forget. I don't think I've said this before in any of the podcasts, but Cade Mila Fulcher actually means 100,000 welcomes or 100 million welcomes. I think it's 100,000. But yeah, Cade Mila Fulcher, welcome back. You're probably wondering why I'm by myself today and why Shauna isn't here and why it's a different setup, all the things. So basically, some of you might remember last time we spun the wheel, it landed on beliefs. And our last episode was all about superstitions. It was a really fun episode. You should go and watch it. I'll link it down below. But we spoke about superstitions, and then we wanted to get into like myths and legends. So religion had its own section on the wheel, so we're not going to talk about religious beliefs this time. We'll wait until we spin that, but we're talking about non-religious beliefs. So we're going to get into myths, Irish mythology, all of that. And to go through it, really, it's just a lot of talking. You'll see as the episode goes on, but it was kind of like one of us is going to be talking and the other one's just going to be sat here not doing very much. So we made an executive decision to each take an episode, not forever, but just for, basically there's 4 mythical cycles in Irish mythology, and we're going to just explain the cycles, what they, the outline of them. And there's, like I said, there's 4. I'll do one, Sean will do one, I'll do another one, then Sean will do another one, and then we'll start recording together again to talk about our favourite, like, specific myths within those cycles, specific characters, creatures, all of that stuff. But yeah, it was just felt a bit redundant for one of us to be talking the whole time and the other one to just be sat there not doing very much. So we're going to take it in turns for the next 4 episodes and tell us what you think. Tell us if you see a difference. I'm really nervous with her not being here and having someone to bounce off of. So yeah, unfortunately it's just my annoying squeaky voice for the next 40-ish minutes. I hope I can even get it to 40 minutes. But yeah, anyway, welcome back. Episode 8. Like I said, we spun the wheel, it landed on beliefs. Last week we did superstitions, and now we're on to Irish mythology. I'm going to catch you up on my week like I normally would with Shauna here, but she's not here. What have I been doing this week? My week's been so quiet. My boyfriend has actually gone to Ethiopia for 2 weeks with his family. There was like a wedding. So I'm just in the flat by myself with the 2 cats. I'm not sure if you can see them, but they're actually here on the bed with me. One's asleep and one's cleaning himself just there. I don't know if he's in shock or not. So yeah, I have had a very uneventful week, to be honest. Just working, bank holiday, the coronation, which we don't acknowledge or talk about here. And yeah, that's been my week. Honestly, nothing super exciting. I'm trying to think if I've done anything to report. What did I do this week? Oh, I went up to Highgate. I went to Highgate with my mum, and we went on a walk in Highgate Woods. That was lovely. Shauna would have a much more exciting weekly catch up for you if she was here, because she's been to Venice, so that would be much nicer. But I'm sure she'll catch you all up on it next week when you see her. But yeah, that's been my week. Just working, chilling with the cats, going to Highgate with my mum. What else did I do? That's it, I think. That's a boring one. Anyway, we'll move on to, guys, okay, I keep saying it. I know I keep saying it, but I'm going to get on to my brother about this jingle. Callum, if you watch this, can you please, please, please send me over this jingle? I'm pretty sure it's done. He just hasn't sent it to me. But you know what that means. It's time for Irish Word of the Week. So this week's word, oh, this is hard, guys. This week's word is my cat. My cat is cleaning himself, so if you can hear that on the audio. I'm so sorry. But you know, all of the audio stuff as well is at Shauna's. So we're doing what we can with what we have, guys. This is what Patricia taught me. Wherever you are, you do what you can with what you've got. And then when you've got better, or when you know better, you do better. So I think the word of the week is pronounced, oh, please, God forgive me, and everybody watching or listening, please forgive me. I don't mean to butcher this. I think it's Myotas Argus Finscolta. Myotas Argus Finscolta. And that means myths and legends, which is obviously what we're talking about. And it's time for another jingle. Callum, please send it to me. It's Irish News Story of the Week. Guys, we'll have a better one than that, I promise you. No more cats being swung in a bag against the wall. So this week's news story, I think, is a good one. I think it sort of ties in with the theme. It's like a little bit like, it's a little bit like magical. It's modern day, but it's like a little bit like magical and a little bit like, it's just very on brand, I feel like. So I don't know if anyone will have seen this. You definitely would have. It was posted on like Lad Bible Island and stuff. But basically there's this taxi driver in Cork who's got a pet crow, which it's a no from me, guys, because I'm not a fan of birds. Their feathers freak me out. I hate, you know, that like noise they make when they flap their wings. It's a no from me. But this guy has got a pet crow, and that when he's like going on when he's driving, it flies alongside him, like on his window. I've never seen anything like it. It was wild. And it got into like circulating in the media because this girl took the taxi and she was in the back and this crow was just flying alongside the taxi with her. It was insane. I think he like feeds it, and I'm not sure, but I think it knows that he's got food and will like continuously give it food, which is why he stays. But yeah, this girl made a video of her just sat in the back of this taxi, chatting away to the taxi driver. She was like really shocked. She was like, "Oh my God, is he actually flying?" Yeah, this crow just like flying along, and I just feel like that's so on brand because when you think about all like old tale, like anything from like medieval times or before, I always feel like it's so heavily associated with crows. Like in anything that you watch or anything that you read, they're always there somewhere. Crows or ravens? Maybe it's ravens I'm talking about. What? I don't know the difference between a crow and a raven. If anybody does, can you please comment down below and tell me what is the difference between a crow and a raven? They look exactly the same to me. But yeah, that's the news story of the week, is that there's a taxi driver in Cork that's got a pet crow, which is, I think, is pretty cool. So yeah, what is the main bulk of today's podcast? As I've said probably about 3 times now, it is myths and legends. So we spun the wheel, it landed on beliefs. We spoke last week about superstitions, and this week we're going to be talking about myths and legends. There's going to be a few episodes of this. Again, the way that we do it is we spin the wheel, it lands on a topic, and then we just see how many episodes we can get out of that topic. And I think for myths and legends, there'll be quite a few. So I thought where the best place to start is like the definition of mythology. What is mythology? So it's defined as a collection of myths, like stories, tales, belonging to a particular religious or cultural tradition. Now, most of you will probably know, or some of you might not, I don't know, but especially pertaining to Irish mythology, it is so mixed in with Christianity. They've kind of become one and the same. Not one and the same, but it's very hard to sort of untangle the two. Because we've said this before when we were talking about superstitions in our last episode, around the time when Christianity was spreading around the world and people were going to countries specifically to convert people to Christianity, the way that they did that was by weaving Christianity into their already existing stories. So this is what we're talking about today, is the perfect example. So in Irish mythology, there are 4 main mythology cycles, that's what they're called. And they are the mythological cycle, the Ulster cycle, the Fenian cycle, and the historical cycle. So within those cycles, they're like different timelines, and that's where all the tales from Irish mythology come from, is these 4 cycles. We're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about them in order. So we're going to start today with the mythological cycle. The mythological cycle revolves around this book called, I've got it down there, it's called Lebor Gabála Érenn, and it's, in English, it's called The Book of Invasions, or The Book of the Takings of Ireland, and it's the stories of the first people, the first few groups of people, this is my cat Messy, the first few groups of people to come and settle the land of Ireland. Basically, the first chapter of this book, when you open it, is Genesis, like it is from the Bible. It talks about, you know, the creation of the earth and all of that stuff. But we're going to skip over that. If everybody, I'm sure everybody knows what's in the Bible. If you don't, read it, or don't, whatever. But basically, the start of the mythological cycle starts with a woman called Casir, or Caesar. I think it's Casir. Ireland is uninhabited, apparently. And Casir is in the Book of Invasions, is written as the granddaughter of Noah from the Bible. So she is again, in you can just, it's so obvious how they've kind of fabricated things to fit the pagan narrative into the Christian narrative. So in the Bible, Noah has 3 sons. Can't remember their names, I'll put them on the screen. But according to the Book of Invasions, Noah has a 4th son that isn't mentioned in the Bible. So the 4th son's name is Bith, and Bith is Casir's father. But for some reason, Casir is denied admission to the ark. She isn't allowed to go onto the ark. I'm not sure why. So 40 days, again, very significant number in the Bible, before the flood is due to arrive, Casir goes. She takes a load of ships with her, and she just sails off. On their journey, that they're sailing for some time, on their journey there's a shipwreck, and most of the people that are in her fleet die. The only people that survive are Casir, along with 49 other women and 3 men. So yeah, it's going to be hard to repopulate the island. They arrive in County Cork, and she marries, they get to Ireland, they're there for a while, she marries one of the 3 men that land on that survive the shipwreck. This man is called Fintan MacBochra. Then the deal is, she's married him, but there's like 49 other women and 2 other men, so they just make a decision to split all of the 50 women between these 3 men, and they will be responsible for repopulating, populating the island. So then 2 of the men died. 2 of the men die, so now there's Fintan and 50 women. So obviously all the women now turn their attention to Fintan. He's the only guy that's able to help them populate the island. And plus you have to think, back in those days it was sort of, according to biblical times, in mythology it's often very different. Women are often portrayed as very strong sort of leaders. But in this story, not so much. They're all looking to him as well, come on, you're the guy, you've got to provide, you've got to build, and you've got to sleep with us all so we can all have a baby and populate the earth. So he's like, whoa, this is too much responsibility, guys. You're you know what I mean? You're crowding me, give me some space, this is too much. So he escapes Ireland, and how does he do that? He turns himself into a salmon. I'm not sure how or where or why, but some of these people in these stories, even just the humans, seem to have magical powers. So he turns himself into a salmon, hops off into the ocean, he's gone. Casir dies from a broken heart, and then all the other women, they eventually just die out because they can't, you know, they can't breed. There's no way for them to breed, so they all die. In the Christian version, though, the very Christian version, it says that the flood comes and wipes them all out. But either way. So they got to Ireland. They all die one way or another. He's turned into a fish, jumped off into the ocean. The island of Ireland is now empty again. Fast forward 300 years later, the island's been uninhabited for all that time. 300 years gone by, no one's there. Then some guy called Partholon arrives in Ireland with his wife. His sons, and his sons' wives, and about 1,000 of their followers. They're called the Partholonians. So Partholon was from Greece. He was the son of the king of Greece, but dun dun dun, he murdered his mother and father and then fled Greece. I don't know why, but I'm assuming that version, that will be in Greek mythology. I'm sure why Partholon killed his mother and father will be in Greek mythology, but that's his backstory. So they sail away from Greece. They're sailing for 7 years. Then they come across the island of Ireland uninhabited. Also, they think, was it really uninhabited? The answer is no, it wasn't. So they rock up, and there are these, I don't want to say things, but even though that's what they're considered, there's like these creatures that are living on the island called the Fofora. I think that's how it's pronounced. I will put it here on the screen, and I think from what I've seen online, there's a bit of like, people say you pronounce it different ways, but we're going to say Fofora. So the Fofora are described as like these really, they're magical, they're like a magical race, but they're very dark, malevolent, evil creatures that live either under the earth or under the sea, but they've decided to come up from underneath the ocean, and they now live on the island of Ireland. Their stronghold is on Tory Island, which is up sort of near Donegal, but they're roaming all over the gaff. They're there. So the Partholonians rock up thinking that they've got this lovely green beautiful island to call home, but now they've got these dark, evil, scary, malevolent creatures there to contend with. So, oh, a thing I forgot to say about the Fofora as well is they're all kind of, they're described as being extremely like ugly, like extremely sort of like, some of them have like the body of a man but the head of a goat, or like some of them have like missing limbs, which is, you know, ableist, but this is however many thousands of years ago. They are just very like dismembered and disfigured, and kind of just described as very, very ugly. Like one of them is a cyclops, like very ugly creatures. Yeah, the Partholonians rock up. The Fofora are like, absolutely not, this is our land, we live here. So they have a huge battle. After 30 years in Ireland, not sure how, but Partholon actually dies. And then another 120 years after he's died, all of his descendants, the Partholonians, they get wiped out in 1 week by a plague. All except there's one guy that survives, who is Partholon's nephew. And the way that he survived over this 120 years, and, you know, survived the plague, survived the Fofora, whatever, is he's the guy, just a human, but he seems to have magical powers. He keeps changing himself into different animals. So like there's been a stag, a couple of other animals, but this is a super side note, but I just think this is interesting. The very last animal that he turns himself into is a fish. And later down the line in the mythology cycle, he gets caught as a fish and eaten by this woman who is a wife of one of the chieftains in Ireland. On eating him, she immediately falls pregnant, immaculate conception, hello, very, very Bible-like, but she falls pregnant, and this guy called Tuon, and he's reborn as the son of this woman and this chieftain, and he's remembered everything from his past life, which is how we supposedly get the story of the Partholonians and like the Book of Invasions. He is like a contributor to that because he can remember his past life. But anyway, So it's 30 years later, the Partholonians are dead, Tuon has gone off into the ocean and is now a fish somewhere. Now it's time for another group of people to rock up, and these are called the Numidians, led by somebody called, I'm sure you've guessed, Nemid. He is apparently another descendant of Noah, of much further, you know, we're way down the timeline now, so he's a much more distant descendant of Noah, apparently. And he is him and his people sailed from the Caspian Sea, which is a body of water that is in sort of modern day, like Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, those kind of places. It's near there. They sail, I believe he's a mutineer, I believe. Again, I don't know much about his backstory. I'm sure that will be in some other mythology in another part of the world. But they're sailing around for 18 months, nowhere to go. They originally set sail with 44 ships, but somewhere along their journey, not in Ireland, but somewhere along their journey, a giant golden tower pops up out of the water. And they're like, oh, gold, lovely. They go and try and take it. But of course they drown in trying to do that. Trying to take the golden tower gets them all killed. All except for one ship, which is the ship that Nemid is on, Nemid's wife, and Nemid's son, I believe, and his son's wives. So they rock up, they're sailing, they rock up to Ireland. Who's there when they rock up? The Fofora. They're still there, they're still in Ireland. So again, the Fofora are like, absolutely not, this is our land. If you want it, you're going to have to fight us for it. So then they have battles, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the Numidians actually beat the Fofora, I think, 4 times. They have 4 big battles and they win 4 of them. But then there's another plague. Nemid dies from a plague. So now, with Nemid gone and out of the way, he was their leader, he's gone, the Fofora are able to take power, and they do, and they subjugate the Numidian people. So they force them, they put heavy taxation on them, and that taxation comes in the form of having to give up their milk supply, their grain supply, and 2/3 of their children. Every year they have this annual tax on Samhain, which is Halloween, which is where Halloween comes from all over the world. It's an Irish holiday. So yeah, they're giving them every year, they're giving them all of their grain supply, all of their milk supply, and 2/3 of whatever children they produce has to go to the Fofora. Then one day they are like, no, bollocks to this. You're taking all our stuff. You're taking all our kids. We're not having it anymore. So they rebel. They rise up basically and have a rebellion. So during this rebellion, they successfully managed to kill a king, one of the Fofora kings, called Conrad mac Feibhre. But then another Fofora king comes to save the day and kills them all. So all the Numidians are now dead, except 30 of them. 30 of them, managed to get onto a boat and sail away. So some sail up to what is referred to in the story as the north of the world. Is it Scandinavia? I'm not sure. Some sail across to Britain to become the first Brits, and some sail down to Greece where they become enslaved. Now, again, Ireland goes uninhabited except the Fofora. We're jumping forward now to 230 years. So 230 years later, the descendants of these enslaved Numidian people that sailed down to Greece are like, bollocks to the slave life, had enough, and they flee Greece and go back to Ireland. And these people, although they are the descendants of the Numidians, they're now known as the Firbolg. They're their own group of people. So the Firbolg arrive in Ireland. The Fofora are still there, but they managed to live in Ireland quite successfully. They're thriving, and they go all over the island, and they split the island up into the 5 parts that it still exists in today. So the provinces, so Connacht, Ulster, Leinster, and North and South Munster. Each province has got its own chieftain, and then there is one High King of Ireland who is the ruler over all of the land. And these are the first group of people to have a power structure that is like that. So they were only there for 37 years until somebody else rocks up, but during that 37 years they managed to have 9 high kings of Ireland. I am not sure all of their names. I'm going to link some stuff down below. If you guys want to know more, you can click at the links down below that will go into like proper detail. So it's 37 years later. They're absolutely, the Fir Bolg are here, thriving, living their best life. Then, dun dun dun, the Tuatha Dé Danann rock up. Now, anybody who knows anything about Ireland, you probably will have heard of the Tuatha Dé Danann. They're like a magical race of like supernatural beings. They're like demigods almost. So they're like gods who have taken on human form, and they are like representative in mythology of the pagan gods of Ireland. So like all of the gods that were people worshipping at the time. But again, the Christians got involved. They couldn't have that. They couldn't depict them as gods. So in this book of Invasions, they say they're like wizards or something. They don't want to say they're gods, but they are. So Tuatha Dé Danann rock up. Now this is, so the Tuatha Dé Danann are apparently the descendants of the Numidians who fled to the north of the world. So they've travelled from 4 magical cities in a magical land in the north of the world. And this magical land apparently no human has ever seen. So these cities are Falius, Gorius, Morius and Phineas, I believe. Please tell me if I'm saying any of those names wrong. So they've come back to Ireland from the north of the world, these magical places that nobody really knows where they are. And they arrive to Ireland on a giant black storm cloud. And it puts Ireland into darkness for 3 days straight. The cloud covers the whole of the island. It's in darkness for 3 days straight. Then the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fir Bolg have a battle. The Fir Bolgs lose, and some leave Ireland and some stay and just sort of acclimatise to their new magical rulers. They're like, fine, you know, you win, you can have the rule of the land, but we'll be your like subjects or whatever. So the king of the Tuatha Dé Danann is this guy called Nuada. And during the battle with the Fir Bolg, he gets an arm chopped off. So for some reason, he can't be king with only one arm. So he goes off on a mission to get his arm sorted, and he's gone for about 7 years. While he's away, there's like a standing king of this guy called Bress. Now, Bress is half Tuatha Dé Danann and half Fómhara. So although these people are like sworn mortal enemies, they're obviously breeding somewhere. Some of them are sleeping together and making babies. So Bress, half Tuatha Dé Danann, half Fómhara. And then, what's his name again? What did I just say? Nuada? Nuada, like I said, he's been gone for 7 years. He returns. He shows up with this shiny new silver arm, so he can now be king again. He's like, right, Bress, off you go. I'm going to be king again now. As I said, the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fómhara are mortal enemies. There's a legend that says they were sort of allies when the Tuatha Dé Danann were in the north of the world. While they were away from Ireland, they sort of were allies of each other. But then when they came to Ireland, the Fómhara were like, absolutely not. So they're now mortal enemies. So they go into, this Nuada guy comes back, new shiny fancy silver arm. They go into battle with the Fómhara again. Bloody hell, how are these Fómhara still alive? They're battling everybody. So they're battling, but as we know, they are battling, but also some of them are over here mating and having half Tuatha Dé Danann and half Fómhara babies. In comes Lugh, but he's also half Tuatha Dé Danann and half Fómhara. So he's here now. And he kills the king of the Fómhara, and they're defeated for good. So the Fómhara have gone. Oh, but during the battle of the Fómhara and the Tuatha Dé Danann, Nuada is killed. They kill him off. So now Lugh becomes king. So Lugh is now High King of Ireland. Then Lugh's wife cheats on him, and Lugh kills the guy that she cheated on him with. Then the guy that she cheated with had 3 sons. They come and kill Lugh. And in between that, there's a massive list of different High Kings of Ireland and different stories. But we're going to jump forward 150 years. So 150 years in the future, and these three sons are now joint High Kings of Ireland. And remember, the Tuatha Dé Danann are like magical beings. They're not human, so they're immortal. They live forever. So 150 years is not really that long in like their timeline. They're not human now. So 150 years later, and the three sons of this guy that killed Lugh are now the joint kings of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Enter, oh my word, another group of people, the Milesians. Now, the Milesians are very interesting because the Milesians are humans, just normal humans that have sailed from the Iberian Peninsula, which is like where Spain is, to Ireland. And they are said to be the descendants of the current Irish population. A lot of people think of, a lot of people around the world, or who don't know much about Ireland or Irish people, often think of Irish people as having bright red hair and freckly and really pale skin, which some of them do. I believe second to Scotland, Ireland has got the most dense population of redheads in the world. But red hair, I believe in Ireland comes from the Vikings. Originally, Irish people are very dark, like they've got dark eyes, dark hair, you know, olivey kind of skin, and it's because they're descendants of these people, the Milesians. So the Milesians rock up, the Tuatha Dé Danann are like, no way, we've just fought one load of people for this land, we're not giving it to you, absolutely not. So they're magic, they put like a spell over the whole of the island to make like this fog that makes the land disappear. So the Milesians can't see it. But there's a Milesian on board these ships, and his name is Arvagan. And he's like a druid. He's like a magic man himself. He's got his own sort of powers. And he chants, it's like a poem or a lyric or a spell to make the fog dissipate. So now they can see the island. So they come aboard, they're making their way around the island, you know, exploring, and on their journey they meet three women. Now these three women are the three wives of the High Kings. I'll put their names up here, I can't remember them, but one of the women is called Eru, and all three of these women ask these Milesians, can you please name this land after me? And Eru is one of them. And obviously today we know that Ireland is, in Irish language, is known as Erin, which comes from that, which is interesting. So the Tuatha Dé Danann have realised that this magical man, what is his name again? His name's Arvagan, has made the fog dissipate, and they now know that the Milesians are on the island. So the Tuatha Dé Dananns rile up a massive thunderstorm, and it's so bad that it forces the Milesians to go back to their boats, which are still on the shore. Arvagan, while they go back to their boats, but Arvagan then, who is the druid, the magic man, he says another chant or spell or whatever, but this time he speaks directly to the land, to Ireland itself, and he asks it for permission if they can live there. So, and the land is okay, like fine. So it stops the storm, and they can come aboard. Obviously, the Tuatha Dé Danann are not happy about this, so they battle, back and forth, and then they negotiate. After all the battling, they have a negotiation, and the terms of negotiation basically end up being that the Milesians will live above the surface, so on the surface level of the land, and the Tuatha Dé Danann will live below the surface, underneath the land. And that's what they did. They agreed to one have the surface, one have the sub-level, whatever it's called. And now, then that's when the Tuatha Dé Danann become known as the Aishí, or the fairy folk. Yeah, so that is basically it. That is, I know it was long, but I hope you were able to keep up. That is basically the first cycle in Irish mythology. It was very vague, but like I said, when me and Shauna are back filming together, we're going to get into maybe a couple of the specific myths and like characters and creatures and stuff. But for now, we'll just go over the What are they called again? They are called myth cycles. So yeah, that was the mythological, and it's called the mythological cycle. The next one is the Ulster cycle, I believe. But yeah, that was the mythological cycle, guys. I hope you like it. So now it's time for Irish fact of the week. So something I didn't say is that when the Tuatha Dé Danann came from the north of the world, from these 4 magical cities, each of them brought like a special artifact. And one of the artifacts is a rock known as the Stone of Destiny. And this is the fact of the week, that there is actually a rock on the hill of Tara in County Meath. There is a rock, and it's known as the Rock of Destiny, and it is said to have been brought to Ireland by the Tuatha Dé Danann. And this rock is where all of the High Kings of Ireland used to be crowned. And it's said that when the true High King of Ireland was to stand on the rock, that the rock would make a roaring sound, like a joyous roaring noise. And it's actually there. You can go and see this rock. It's a real thing, which is so cool. So guys, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening, watching. Please like the videos, please subscribe to YouTube, please go and follow us on Instagram, TikTok. I'll put our details here. It's Plastic Paddies Podcast on all socials. Please go and give us a follow. I have to say thank you for all of our new followers and all of our new subscribers. We had 10 subscribers last week and we're up to 12 now on YouTube. We're up to 62 followers on Instagram, and we've got 87 followers on Instagram and 62 followers on TikTok. So we're slowly building a little community, guys, which is ultimately what we want to do. We want to build a community of fellow plastic paddies, yeah, to just have somewhere to go and, you know, celebrate their Irishness. So as you know, it's out on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify or anywhere else that you get your podcasts. And that's it. Sinead, thank you. Bye.